Alors, on avait un beau gosse de mort. Pourquoi je suis dehors? Pourquoi je suis dehors? Qu'est-ce que c'est que...
Look, the cutest thing you'll see all day. Hamlet staged by children.
Hein? Quoi? Mais... Hein? Mais je viens d'arriver! Qu'est-ce qui se passe? John a remarqué une affiche collée sur les murs de Legacy Theatre, lequel se situe entre Bonaparte... Super John, mais je m'en bats les couilles. Mais qu'est-ce que je... Attendez. Mais qu'est-ce qu'elle m'a foutu la sauvegarde? Allô? L'aide. Il s'est passé... Je suis perdu. Allô? Mais qu'est-ce que je fous là? Je devrais être là-dedans. Oh, merde. Ah bah bravo. Bon, alors. Oui, allez, on va baiser.
Welcome, sir.
Alors, où est-ce qu'elles sont, ces petites mèches? Par où? Ah oui, il fallait... Il fallait donc... que je réfléchisse. Oh, ça va être compliqué. Alors. Bon. Quelles étaient les preuves? Mes preuves. Sur l'hôtel de la beauté. On avait trouvé une clé. On avait... il faut que je refasse un tour visuel, sinon ça va pas le faire. Quelqu'un de très visuel. Regardez, nous avions une tache de sang. Non, tu veux pas me l'analyser? Vraiment. On avait une empreinte de main sanglante ici. On avait vu qu'il y avait des petites traces venues ici et ici. On ne sait pas de qui elles sont. On sait par contre qu'il y a eu ici des écrans séchés. Là-bas, on a les vêtements. Ici, Hercules. On a eu avec tout le sacrifice avec la dague. Là, c'était quoi
The herbs
déjà?
here are Salvia divinorum. They have a slight hallucinogenic effect to emphasize the ceremony.
C'est ça, c'était un hallucinogène. Lui, bah, il picole. Et lui, il est mort. Je ne le ferai pas ces blagues. Allez, c'est parti. Alors, du coup... Alors, là. Ah, c'est vrai qu'il avait des contusions au niveau de la gorge. Attendez. Quantité de sang qui revient de la blessure du thorax, la victime serait serrée dans sa main gauche un pan de tissu. Fabio est manifestement mort ici. Ouais. Je me souviens pas qui... Non, il n'y a pas eu de confusion. Qu'est-ce que je fais? Réfléchis. Tête semble con... Ah, traumatisme contondant. Une marque sur la tête, c'est vrai. Oui, mais c'est pas qu'il soit. On va mettre ça pour le moment. Ensuite, qu'est-ce que j'ai ici? Ah, il y a eu une attaque ici. Alors. Est-ce qu'il aurait été assommé dans le boudoir, traîné jusque là-bas? Et lui, il aurait été laissé du coup. C'est totalement possible en fait. Non, c'est lui qui avait verrouillé la boucle. Ah, lui ou le tueur? Je sais pas, c'est peut-être le tueur. On va supposer que c'est le tueur. Il l'a emmené, il l'a traîné après l'avoir assommé d'un objet contenu. Oh, du vin, ça. Non, pas poignardé. Assommé. Ensuite, il est venu là pour se laver les mains. Il avait posé sa tunique. On va essayer de voir si c'est pas ça. Pense-toi, toi. Oh, les couilles. C'est ça. J'appuie sur la touche de quitter. Je me suis dit c'est ça, c'est bon, c'est ça. Connard. Ah, il y a du beau jeu ici ce matin. Super. Je dois tout refaire. Je me déteste. Et j'ai pas tilté quand j'ai vu le E. Et là il l'a achevé. Moi il est ici. Et là il a été. Non il aurait pas rampé jusque là. Assommé. Ça va acheter un. Et... on a l'air pas mal. Alors, on disait ça. Et c'était ça en
The bottle was
plus.
used as a weapon during a scuffle in the smoking lounge. Then, to ensure no one would interrupt, the murderer locked the door. The unconscious body of the victim was moved to the altar room.
Ouais.
Once the body was on the altar, the murderer thrust the dagger into the victim's heart. Symbols were drawn with the blood. The wardrobe was used to hide the bloodied robe from anyone's eyes. The killer washed himself and took a clean robe from the hanger before leaving.
Are you alright? You're on the floor, not moving.
I think I know what happened here.
Eh ouais, Gogol, moi je bouge mon cul. Hop. Quasiment à la fin du jeu. Et avec une personne libre. On est quasiment à la fin du jeu. Ah, pas les mentales. Fabio a été attaqué dans une autre pièce. Le meurtrier avait la clé de la salle. Le meurtrier était en possession d'une clé qui ouvre la porte de la salle de l'hôtel. Il a fermé à clé. Alors attendez. Ah. Fabio a été attaqué dans une autre. Ah ah. Le rituel a été une diversion. Le rituel a été une mise en scène afin de... Le mobile du... Totalement possible. Pas les lits. Il paraît clair que le meurtrier avait sa propre clé. Si je parviens à dresser une liste des individus possédant la clé de la... Donc il faudrait... Clé.
I'm starting to put the pieces together.
Fabio was stabbed.
I see nothing gets past you, Werner. Yes, he was stabbed, but only after being knocked out in the next room and placed here.
Hey, il a été poignardé. Connard, finement observé.
Well, it was one person working alone, and the murderer has now donned a robe. He or she could be hiding in plain sight. We have lost time, Werner, but your discretion may prove to be a benediction after all.
Cadavre.
I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I'm not supposed to know anything about this.
The murderer had to have access to this room. After the crime, he used his own key to lock the door. So, who had the key to the altar room?
I'm not sure. As a special guest, I was provided one by Mr. Manchios. He should be able to tell you of any others.
Where can I find him?
Most likely in the main hall, entertaining his guests. He has a mask with golden stars. You can't miss him. But please be discreet. We don't want to risk disturbing the
Mais je m'en bats les couilles de la soirée, en fait, il y a eu un meurtre, gars. De nouvelles preuves. Virgil ignore ce qui pouvait être en possession de la clé permettant d'accéder à la salle de l'hôtel et m'a suggéré d'interroger Monsieur Manch. Il va falloir faire un mec avec des tours. J'avais l'impression d'être dans une soirée Sims avec les voix. Alors, est-ce que je... Il dit qu'il avait des étoiles.
Oh, there's beauties. Manches is the best, as always.
Utiliser mode concentration. Ouais, après plusieurs heures de jeu, je sais toujours pas ce que veut dire les symboles. Hein. Porte un masque orné d'étoiles dorées et devrait sans aucun doute avoir l'air nerveux en raison de la découverte. Voilà.
I need a rest from my insatiable wife.
Me gourde de bouton. Allez. Patissant. Tendu. Lui, il est tendu.
Kurt Manchios, I presume? I'm Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, you must be the one Werner told me about. What a sweet voice you have. It must belong to a handsome young man. Can I call you Sherlock?
As you wish, Mr. Manchios. Mr. Vogel asked me to help you. The body in the altar room requires answers, and quickly. I suspect the murderer to still be here.
What? Lower your voice. I don't want anyone to hear us.
Did you know Fabio well?
People are starting to look at us, Sherlock. Change the subject. I can't believe what happened to him. To me. Such an atrocity. Think what it means for me. A wonderful evening for so many good, influential, and rich people has been ruined. I have betrayed all my promises of exotic delights.
I don't understand. Surely a murder would affect your reputation to a greater extent.
Please, isn't this why you are here? I thought you were a silent magician. Do your tricks and make it go away.
D'accord.
I need to find all those who had the key to the altar room. As far as I know, Mr. Vogel, Fabio, and you had access to it. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Also, Matista and Santos.
Santos? Who is that?
Santos Pinchetti, my major domo. In his opinion, at least.
La butler.
I'd like to speak to Mr. Pinchetti and Matista. Do you have somewhere I might have a private conversation with them?
Of course, of course. Let me think. Matista is entertaining the guests somewhere, and Santos... Oh, yes. He will be busy with the servants. Or the cook.
D'accord, mais
What's
c'est
that
quoi
noise?
exactement?
What's going on? Freeze, filth. You're under arrest.
La tête du type. Hein? Oh la violence policière en direct. Oh la violence policière en direct. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Avec la musique. C'est là que des signes. Paf, le coup de poing. Da, 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 da. Mais qu'est-ce qui se passe? Un nouveau divertissement de la soirée. Lui il est pas content, yes. Ah ouais mais nous on est là. Aïe aïe aïe.
You committed a crime, and now I have to free you, kiss your hand, and apologize for the inconvenience. You're great.
I did tell you that Mr. Vogel and I were innocent. I emphasized it in my statement.
Your statement? Thanks to some bigwigs who work for the so-called good of the country by releasing fleas
on se
like
calme,
you.
hein.
Thank God we have Vogel in this letter. Once I get to that goldfish, I'll...
Bigwig. Oh, my wretched brother Mycroft and his long nose.
Wait, did you say Mycroft? Mycroft Holmes? Are you the youngest son of Violet Holmes, rest her soul?
You knew my mother?
Not
Oh, je la voyais
personally,
tous les matins.
no. Not exactly. I was working on
Oula,
the paperwork
pas
for that
personnellement, tant
case.
mieux.
Would you happen to remember anything of the events?
Well, I didn't make the inquiry, but I remember seeing some notes.
Oui, s'il vous
Why?
plaît.
Perhaps we can negotiate. I could be quite useful.
Huh. Got you hooked, right? You know what? Stark and the others think they're the smartest here, thanks to you. Let me get this straight. Are you listening to me, lad?
I'm all ears.
Take this case. Report to me only, to Constable Harvey Oswald. I'll leave everything I have on this table. Find the murderer. Be a real copper. Question the suspects, make them sing, give me something substantial.
And if Mr. Vogel is not a suspect?
If he's innocent, then you can take your favourite degenerate away from here. If you slip or mess with the evidence, then trust me, your brother won't save you from my bludgeon. Meanwhile, I'll be checking the archive for you. If anybody asks, then you're a consulting detective.
Let's make a start then,
Mhm.
partner.
I'm glad we managed to get the scoop before the raid.
Hop, toutes les preuves sont réunies. Alors. Fabio a reçu une paire de boutons de manchette. Ça, il faudra que j'en... La police m'a arrêté lors de la descente au manoir Munchos. L'agent Oswald m'a remis en liberté. Celui-ci affirme qu'il peut retrouver les documents étant de la mort de ma mère si, en échange, je l'aide à résoudre cette affaire. J'ai accepté son marché. L'agent Oswald restera posté aux archives pendant mon enquête. Il a laissé toutes les éléments dont il dispose. Ok. On discute. Qu'est-ce qu'on a là? Alors, de la lecture. Salut. Ça va, ça va. Alors, je suis signé Santos Pinchetti atteste de mon témoignage signalant un meurtre suspect au manoir Montrose dans le Grand Sarret. Alors que la maisonnée s'affairait aux préparatifs de la fête, j'ai entendu des bruits terribles provenant de la salle de l'hôtel qui était fermée. Immédiatement, j'ai pensé à un sacrifice de quelques êtres humains vivants. Être vivant, orchestré par Kurt Manchos en personne, venait d'avoir lieu. Je voyais déjà le sang sur les murs, des symboles étranges, un poignard dans le cœur. Vachement renseigné quand même. Alors qu'il n'a pas pu rentrer dans la pièce. Dès l'instant où j'ai retrouvé l'usage de mes facultés, je me suis précipité au poste de police afin d'y rapporter mes observations. La police a réagi à la déposition en envoyant une patrouille tandis que le témoin a quitté le poste pour rentrer chez lui. Le détenteur de ce ticket est autorisé à examiner toutes les preuves relatives. Ok. À la suite du signalement donné par un témoin ayant assisté au rituel satanique, qui aurait en outre découvert un corps, la descente sur le manoir Manchos a été autorisée. Celle-ci a entraîné l'arrestation de plusieurs suspects et la dispersion du groupe d'individus portant masques et robes surpris au milieu d'actes grossièrement indécents et contre nature. Le corps de la victime a été retrouvé étendu sur un autel avec une blessure au couteau au niveau de la poitrine. Les agents de police ont identifié le mort. Fabio, un artiste de charme local âgé de 20 ans. Ah bah putain. Suspect appréhendé. V. Vogel avait fait sur sa personne une lettre de caractère curieux écrite par la victime. Il prétend avoir trouvé le corps de Monsieur Vogel. Monsieur Vogel est réputé pour sa personnalité excentrique. Sherlock Holmes posait des larmes du crime, une dague imprégnée du sang de la victime ainsi que d'autres objets d'intérêt. Monsieur Holmes a été convié dans la soirée par le principal suspect, Monsieur Vogel, a priori dans le but d'entraver l'enquête officielle. Monsieur Manchos, le propriétaire du manoir et organisateur de la soirée satanique, a payé la victime pour participer au rituel, avait accès à la scène du crime. Matista, la partenaire de Fabio et autres participants du rituel, a essayé de s'échapper et a résisté lors de l'arrestation, possédé d'un livre contenant une inscription du rituel exécuté dans la salle de l'hôtel. Plusieurs invités ont été placés en détention provisoire pour interrogatoire approfondi. Et là, j'ai les clés. Ah. Plus.
Back on track to solve the case.
Allez, c'est parti. Donc, tac, 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 tac. Et 5 et 6. Ok. Il guichet. Ok. Élémentaire. Vogel est détenu à cause de la lettre. Un suspect qui doit être arrêté et interrogé. Et une clé. Détail qu'il a omis de cette opposition. Tout à fait. Et le corps est... Merci. D'accord. Ok. Ok. Alors. Et Santos est un suspect. Santos. Alors, comment accès à la vaisselle? Même à être le premier à avoir découvert le corps. Cela fait de lui un suspect parfait. Il devrait me rendre aux archives. Mais. Ok. Ça, c'est des trucs qu'il faut.
Look, I found Werner.
Ici, qu'est-ce qu'on a? Lol.
Could you help me?
A solid question, sir, but I don't have the answer.
C'est pas ça que je veux. C'est pas sur ça que je veux t'interroger. Bouton de manchette, ça, je n'ai pas d'intérêt. Verrouillé.
Are you able to help me?
A solid question, sir, but I don't have the answer.
Je pense que ça va être pour l'autre, pour le flic. Et... Ça. Lui, il est là-bas. Il fallait d'abord parler à lui.
Good day, Mr. Manchios. I am Constable Oswald's partner in this investigation.
Be quick and gentle. Some of your colleagues are untrained boors. Although I don't mind meeting young officers. The new blood here.
If you cooperate in finding Fabio's murderer, there will be no need to meet with the Boers again.
That voice.
Non.
Werner's friend? You're the policeman. What a disappointment.
Only an undercover agent can scour a ditch full of deviants. I am a consulting detective, although I'm capable of replacing the entire department through my consultations.
Sharp-tongued, I like it. May I presume this tongue will get us out of this trouble? I would be so indebted and glad to repay you.
Nothing's changed. I'm looking for the murderer. That's the only way to get us out of trouble.
But it shouldn't take much time, correct? We're all busy after all.
I need to examine you first.
Alors, petit examen. Observons ça. Alors, ici. Force du maquillage. Irritation due à la teinture. Hop. Savon sous les ongles. C'est trop vite les mains. Vernis. Charles c'est extrêmement riche, excentrique et frivole. Il est l'organisateur des soirées réservées à l'élite cordonnaise et le propriétaire du manoir Manchos. Il passe ses journées à côtoyer d'autres nantis. Dans le genre, toute femme suivant Joe désire cacher son âge véritable. Jeunes hôtes de son vieillissement l'obsède, à tel point qu'il porte du maquillage. Veux. Quelques années. Sinon, toutefois, sa sociabilité à lui a fait de lui un homme omnubilé par la de son apparence et... Ah, j'y arrive pas. Il utilise tant de produits chimiques pour faire sa toilette que ça... Non, pour moi, il dissimule. Non,
You are a little over the top with your use of makeup, Mr. Manchios. Is it so difficult for you to acknowledge your age?
Well, Sherlock, that's easy for you to say to an old man when you look as though you are barely 15.
But still, it shouldn't be an issue for someone of your status.
For people of my age, it isn't an issue, no. But the younger ones can be so afraid of wrinkles and grey flecks. I have to adapt.
Such a methodical man who cares for his body but misses the soap under his fingernails. Are you so impatient, or perhaps even impulsive?
I wouldn't call myself that. Silly little details. If I missed it, it wasn't important. Or rather, it was less important than who or what I was focused on.
What was Fabio like? His personality, his habits? Anything you can tell me?
He was the brightest star of my parties. Young, magnetic, and full of energy. I don't even want to mention his beauty. Otherwise, I'll be sobbing.
An expensive champion, I imagine.
His performances were flawless. He deserved his payment. Do you think he was murdered because of money?
Possibly. What about the other guests? Were they used to opening their wallets as well?
I wouldn't restrict my guests from anything. I'm sure Fabio received a few coins from others for his services.
Ok, j'aimerais en savoir plus
Mr.
sur la
Vogel told me
soirée.
a little about your parties, but I would like to know more directly from you.
I'm all yours, Sherlock. You have me
Calme-toi.
arrested and locked here with you alone.
Why did you invite Mr. Vogel as your special guest?
He's a pretty fellow. He's capable of surprising the public. He has a talent for saying words that no one else would wish to either say or hear.
I suppose I can't argue with that.
He is a free addition to the eccentricity of the party, which is fine by me, as long as it enhances my party.
Et qui invitez-vous
I'd like to
d'habitude?
know who you usually invite to your parties.
Free minds who are able to leave reality for an evening, who can taste forbidden fruit without prejudice. There is nothing that quite spices up life like these parties, assuming one is old enough and has worked many years for the good of one's country.
Oh, all true labourers, I see.
Ok, on a des preuves. Alors.
That's not something I know much about. I've no idea about that.
Eh?
You'd better ask someone else. You'd better ask someone else. I've no idea about that.
Do you have any idea who tipped off the police to raid your mansion, Mr. Manchios?
Of course. It was you. I could even say you Sherlocked me in here.
A good guess, but the wrong one. The fellow who did that was Mr. Pinchetti, your major domo.
What? Santos? But how could he even know? If he's not the murderer himself. The ungrateful swine. He has dared to besmirch my reputation.
Not a very eloquent choice of words.
What should I call him then, since he's a snitch? Make him talk, Sherlock. I'm quite certain he knows more about the murder than he has told the police.
Ouais. Encore les plans tes yeux.
I've no idea about that. You'd better ask someone else. I've no
Okay.
idea about that. I've no idea about that. I've no idea about that.
Ah tiens, les boutons de marchette.
You bought an expensive pair of cufflinks for Fabio. Were they his price? Or were they a tip for an exclusive show?
It was pure business. Fabio escorted me a few times. I was merely showing my gratitude.
This pair cost a small fortune. You must be extremely grateful then. Tell me more.
You've thrust a knife in an exposed nerve, Sherlock. Yes, he was my protégé and my beacon also. With my experience and his beauty, we could have achieved anything. I had faith in him. I would have made him.
Donc j'ai encore sur Vogel. Et de guichet. Ça c'est pour les boutons de manchette. C'est pas... Ah, il y a trop. Manchot à rincer. Ouais, le... de soins. C'est soigneusement préparé pour la soirée. Ok. Interrogatoire suivant. C'est parti.
I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald. You are Matista, Fabio's friend.
This body, yes, it's Matista. But it's a mere shell that will die someday. Just like Fabio.
Fabio knew the risks. Selling his body to degenerates who hid behind robes and masks, it could not end well.
That's only your distorted understanding of safety. Officers here, they wear robes and masks too. It's a dangerous lifestyle. But it's not as though we were given many other choices.
I'm just here to ask questions and find Fabio's murderer.
It will not bring Fabio back.
Alors, c'est parti pour une petite observation. Tatouage. Tatouage occulte. Tatou elle-même. Ah, elle a des marques. Hématome, plutôt. Et le sang. Ouh. Taille vieille et récente. Nerveux. Ongle rond. Ah. Vieille et à peine visible, trace de chien. Ah, elle a le même tatouage que Fabio. Marque de... Alors. Baptiste, l'artiste de charme et partenaire de Fabio, a connu une vie difficile. Devenue esclave et marquée en tant que telle, alors qu'elle n'était encore qu'une enfant, elle fit la rencontre de Fabio au cours de ses années de servitude, ce qui explique pourquoi celui-ci porte les mêmes stigmates. Ces vieilles cicatrices sont le produit de l'asservissement qu'elle a subi à l'adolescence. Aujourd'hui encore, ces terribles souvenirs continuent de la hanter. Baptiste semble avoir adopté une approche pragmatique à l'égard de son corps. Tant d'années de sévices. Elle se vend aux invités qui disposent d'elle selon leur bon vouloir. Il n'existe aucune limite qu'elle craint. Et enfin, Mathilde a tatoué. Elle porte un intérêt véritable au... Comme en témoignent les tatouages cultes qui forcent et sa vie d'artiste. Et elle se punit pour son...
Fabio and yourself were slaves, am I correct? You have a similar branding on your body.
Yes. It was a long time ago.
Couldn't help but also notice fresh cuts upon your forearms.
The cuts helped me to forget my past, to cover the old wounds and hide them.
How did you escape?
Something happened. One night the master fell down the stairs. I made him fall, and he died. We ran away that day. We managed to get on a ship and traveled here, to Gordona. Fabio and I started a new life here. It was very hard at first, but it became better with time. Until today.
The bruises on your neck are not self-inflicted. Someone else made them.
Some guests can't contain themselves. They even bite, sometimes.
Ancien esclave et partage. Le cœur de Mathista présente des hématomes résultant de ses... Fabio a blessé Mathista lors de leur... Mathista. Les invités ont blessé Mathista, le corps de Mathista. Et ça c'est... Regarde, c'est ma cellule. Je devrais rien avoir dans le... Là, non plus. D'accord.
What a bunch of losers.
Werner, are you all right?
Oh, yes, yes. Everything's fine. In fact, it's something of a family reunion. My brother spent quite some time in this place himself.
You should not be here. I told the police everything I knew, but they refused to let you go. They require proof to free you.
Ha! What did you expect? The mighty Sherlock Holmes swans in, tells the officers what to think, and the world obeys?
Of course not. Anyway, I struck a deal with the constable, and I've got a free hand in the investigation. I find proof to solve the case for him. He obtains files about my mother's death for me.
Well done. If one has the power or will and can act, then one must. I wonder, suppose you couldn't get the proof to your truth. Would you tell a lie to the guard that enabled my freedom, knowing my innocence? Would that not be just?
Non, je ne vais pas mentir.
There are lines I will not cross, Werner. I will do my best to secure your release, but with proof, not deception.
Really? How many white lies have you told on this island? Why not for me? Why not another?
That is absurd. I can resolve this without compromises. Do not give up hope.
Alors. Ils ont papa. C'est vrai qu'ils ont papa.
I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I can't follow you here. I'm not supposed to know anything about this. I'm not supposed to know anything about this. I'm not supposed to know anything about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this.
Attends.
I have learned who told the police about the crime. It was Santos Pinchetti,
Do I know him?
the major domo of the manor. He cleans up after you.
Well, then he does his job perfectly. All but invisible. I couldn't tell you the first thing about him.
Par où on sort? Ah.
Did you hear Basilio Copello is in jail? A dead body was found in his showroom.
On va recommencer. Allez, vas-y, reparlez.
Did you hear?
Alors, j'ai perdu du temps pour commencer ça. Non. Non, non,
In the police. Let's pretend to be cops, eh? We can just stand around and look confused.
Je vais les archives, moi. Alors. Ah. Alors.
You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer.
Bah. Ya. Miaou. Viens. Ah, hop. Viens. Alors. Donc, on va faire une épreuve.
I've nothing to say about this.
Mais il est toi.
You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer. You'd better ask me a question I know
Blah, blah,
how
blah,
to
blah,
answer.
blah, blah.
I don't think I can tell you anything about this. You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer. I've nothing to say about this.
Je vais faire tous les trucs, hein.
You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer.
Have you considered Mr. Santos Pinchetti as a suspect?
The snitch? Have you seen him? I mean, my breath could knock him down. What's so special about him?
As a major domo, he has keys that open all the rooms, including the one to the crime scene. Could have testified only to circumvent suspicion, don't you think? Meet a question.
Pardon, j'ai oublié de couper le micro.
I'll send our men to fetch him. Stay here. They brought him in, Mr. Holmes. Here's the key to interrogation room number 7.
Ah, il y a quelqu'un.
Mr. Pinchetti didn't even resist, our men said.
Thank you.
Hop. Allez hop. Ensuite. Tu fais, John. Le monde boire. Ah, l'interrogateur numéro 7.
I recognize the key from the altar room among these.
Et... Sur un bref message joint au testament, on peut lire Santos mollusque plein d'espoir que tu es. Tu m'as supplié de t'inclure dans mon testament alors que tu t'exécutes. Alors je me suis exécuté. Voici donc la dernière révision. Le texte du Santos Pinchetti, le majordome du manoir Manchus, retrouve un pot à moustache ainsi qu'une lame de sel.
Mr. Pinchetti, a pleasure to meet you. I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald.
I've already told him everything I know. I'm only a witness, sir. Everything's in my report.
And I've read it. You forgot to mention that you hold the keys to the room where Fabio was found. I need only to find if the crime was intentional.
But I need to return to my duties.
I doubt the house will fall without you, Mr. Pinchetti. Just be still for a few seconds.
Peau irritée, gasis ou allergie. Comédie plusieurs fois, trop. Plus d'une fois. Oui. Caboussure de sang. Marcher dans du sang. Alors, Santos Pinchetti est l'intendant du manoir Manchus. Bien qu'il soit au sommet de la hiérarchie établie de la donnée, il semble pauvre. Son corps porte des signes de... Monsieur Pinchetti, rongé sous plusieurs couches de maquillage. Le costume du majordome comporte plus qui ont été rapiécés ou recousus. En dépit de l'argent qu'il possède, il limite les cédés. Il dissimule les uns. Et l'image d'un homme. Il a aussi. Le trouble par nous. Parsement. Parsement son avis. Ouais, non, t'es en difficulté, toi. Hop, allez.
You are the majordomo of a rich mansion, and you seem barely able to afford decent clothing. You hide, under heavy makeup, a skin disease that might be treated with more onerous but less harmful means. Do you have money troubles?
I do not have a lot of means. The pay is below what you might expect.
But you could easily change your job if your employer does not meet your elementary needs.
One can change his employer, that is true.
And the blood on your shoe, where does that come from?
I don't actually know. Perhaps from a guest?
Did you know Fabio?
Not personally. He was a frequent guest, and cleaning the mess after his performances was tedious. Mr. Manchios always had a role for him, and mainly the leading one. The parties were always Fabio-centric.
And Matista? Was she as popular as her partner?
Don't tell her I said this, but I do not think so. Mr. Manchios hired her only because Fabio refused to work without her. Mr. Manchios used to see her as a worker. She was tasked with entertaining the guests, unlike Fabio, who could pick and choose. I can't help you.
Mr. Manchios says that you begged him to be included in the heritage. Isn't that a little extreme, even for a majordomo?
He's not only my employer, he's my uncle.
Ah.
And I'm his next of kin. The only one. Mr. Manchios flatly refuses to pay a family member. All I have to do is repay his so-called love, cleaning up the filth after perverts and decadents. He's imprisoned me. The best I can hope for is a new brew. That's why I wanted to have my part of the inheritance.
Is it that bad? You have a roof above your head, a salary, and the status of a major domo.
For God's sake. I'm forced to dye and stitch my threadbare clothes, and the holes in my shoes are painful. I'm ashamed every time a guest looks at me closely.
Why do you think your uncle treats you this way?
My mother, my uncle's sister, had me illegitimately. She died, and I was given the surname of one of the maids.
But you are entitled to some of the money that belongs to your family.
He thinks not. I was not responsible for my mother's death. I work hard, and he pays me nothing. I feed on the leftovers. While he wastes our estate's property on decadent parties, he paid Fabio handsomely and showered him with expensive gifts for their disgusting relationship.
Tâche accidentelle de sang sur Pinchette. Peut-être un marché à queue. Ah si, tiens. Tâche de... ah, on n'a pas remarqué ça. On a remarqué la tache de sang sur le... Et les 20 efforts de mon... Et tu pensais pour Kurt Manchios dans l'attente désespérée de recevoir son mail. Ok. Ok, on va prendre l'autre.
You better ask someone else.
I've read the letter about your will. A harsh method of ridiculing Santos. I doubt he will use mustache wax when he wears no mustache to begin with.
Where did you get it? Is the slug here? Tell him. I shouldn't have to provide for him. He's a grown man who shouldn't sit on his uncle's neck. He conceives himself as my only heir.
And who is he to you?
He's a leech on my aging body. He has only added problems to my life since the death of his mother.
I fail to see why you made him your major domo.
He needed to know his place, so I taught him.
Un lieu que j'ai pas examiné.
This area is restricted.
Can you satisfy my curiosity?
Nothing I can tell you, sir, but others might know more. This area is restricted.
Ah ouais, mais j'ai une autorisation qui me permet de passer. Non.
Continue our investigation while I look for the papers. Continue our investigation
Ouais.
while I look for the papers.
Ça, moi, j'ai rien. Autorisation pour aller là. J'ai l'autorisation. Laisse rentrer.
Can you satisfy my curiosity?
Nothing I can tell you, sir, but others might know more.
Faut que je parle à quelqu'un.
I know you can untangle this mess.
Parler à quelqu'un. C'est bizarre.
Is this familiar to you?
No and no. You are not getting anything from me.
Mon Dieu. Ah mais non, mais t'es... Alors, on va recommencer comme ça. Salut.
Can I ask you a question?
It is dangerous around here, officer. And incredibly stupid to ask these questions.
Je vais essayer de mettre un flic qui me laissera passer.
What a long day.
Voilà.
Help me, please.
Oh, I don't know about that. Ask one of the others.
Could you help me?
Oh, I don't know about that. Ask one of the others.
You obviously haven't thought this all through. Or are you just annoying these people on purpose?
Help me, please.
Unfortunately, my casebook is empty on this.